Splatoon 3 was one of the biggest successes Nintendo's ever had, and that is just a crazy metric to say out loud because when you look at the sales data, it didn't matter what any review said. You know, if someone said it was way too samey to the previous games and they didn't introduce enough changes and the rollout of content wasn't all that great, it did not matter. Soon after launch, Splatoon 3 would win multiple sales records, the fastest selling game in the franchise, one of the best selling games on the Switch period, and also the fastest selling game in Japan period. For a while at least. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet would then take that record, but still, that is crazy numbers. Splatoon is now a certified top franchise from Nintendo. There is clearly just too much money there, and they knew it because pretty early on after the release, we got the announcement of paid DLC. It's already happening, they want more of your money. And this announcement for paid DLC, I'm gonna be honest with you, was pretty bad. It's going to be in two waves, the first wave being Inkopolis, the returning city from Splatoon 1. It brings back a few old shops, and then you could choose to watch the Squid Sister concerts during Splatfest instead of, you know, the new ones, so that's kind of cool. They shoehorn Splatoon 3 features in, like table turf, and that's kind of cool. But that's it, no Splatoon 1 campaign or anything. This was paid DLC. I don't understand. And then when they teased a new campaign, it was just like a teaser thing and no details. So, I don't know, Nintendo is not beating the weird rollout of content allegations with this franchise, okay? Like in Inkopolis, the arcade is there once again, but you can't access it. That's insane. But damn it, you know, they did introduce Fred Crumbs, and that's amazing. So Wave 1 came and went, and then after a shockingly long time, we finally got more details for the second wave, Side Order. Not only is it going to have this totally unique art style, and we have Pearl as a drone now for some reason, but rather than being a proper level-based single-player campaign like Octo Expansion was, it was going to be a roguelike mode. That was the best outcome really, because they likely didn't want to have a DLC outshine the main campaign again, so a shift in gameplay style makes sense to me. And you know what, I actually do fancy a good roguelike mode every now and then, and now we have it in the Splatoon gameplay engine. Okay, there's actually something to this, but how substantial is it going to be? I don't know, let's find out. Let's talk about Splatoon 3's paid DLC, Side Order. By introducing Inkopolis as an overworld option now, there's a brand new train station that you can access in the town. And when Wave 2 dropped, you have a brand new area that you can hit up, the Order Sector, where Inkopolis Square is drained of all color and general life. Though you do eventually find these little guys populating the area. I love them. I love zooming in on them and taking photos of them. They're adorable. So in this new creepy, mysterious world, you are Agent 8, and accompanied by Pearl in drone form, ascend the Spire of Order, a tower where every single floor changes every time you enter it. Something at the very top of this tower wants to make the entire world orderly. And what does that mean? I don't really know, but essentially Chaos won the Splatfest all the way back in Splatoon 2, and we can't have that, so we gotta have order rise up against the weird Chaos overlords. Sure, whatever you say, I'm cool with it. Soon into your journey, you meet Oct, aka DJ Deadfish. Now this is this character's very first appearance in physical form, but there are references to them all the way back in Octo Expansion. So if you really pay attention to the lore, there's something for you there. Very cool. You also soon find a mind-controlled Marina, and you take her out in a boss battle. Once you free her, you see this weird black glitchy structure coming out, and this is claiming to be Order itself? And then with like an explosion, he shoots everybody out of the building? What is happening here? What is Side Order cooking? Oh, and Pearl can also return to normal. Like, she's not like permanently a drone or anything like that. I guess she just has the power to just turn into a drone. Marina explains that there's like this module in this virtual reality world that turned Pearl into a drone, but for the time being, I'm just gonna maintain the lore that Pearl can just do that. Her body can just do that. But Marina explains that this is the Memverse, a VR-based world that she created. This was all initially meant to reverse the sanitization process that we saw in Octo Expansion, and you can see when you take a look at Oct, that's why she's green, she got all sanitized, and that's not good. However, this weird Order creature seized control, forcing the people that connect to this Memverse system to quote-unquote grayscale, essentially removing any independent thought from them. That's terrifying. Order's whole thought process on what is chaos and what is order is just, hey, order will be better because they will do the same exact thing every single time. They're gonna do what they're told. Chaos just means they get free will. And we can't have that. Nah. Alright, gotta climb the tower and stop order, I guess. And yeah, from that point, the story kind of takes a back seat to the gameplay going forward. I mean, it's a roguelike. This is not one of those types of games where you want the story to interfere all too often. It's just a means to go back in and start splatting stuff, and you don't know what's gonna come next. It works out totally fine. It is very nice just seeing more of Off the Hook though. They're like relegated to just the DLC campaigns of Splatoon 2 and 3 now instead of being a primary focus and the main baked in campaigns. But as a result, their inclusions are a lot more varied than what the Squid Sisters bring to the table, so that's cool. I did also previously mention the lack of lore behind these characters in the Splatoon 2 Octo expansion data logs. Those data logs introduce a lot of dialogue and texts between both of those characters, adding a lot of depth to the connection that they have. These two characters really love each other. They're really the bestest of bros, and that's great. All this stuff really makes Off the Hook arguably the best music group of the franchise so far. I don't know if I would argue that's deep Splatoon lore, but it's there, and I love both of these two. Especially Marina, she's a big computer dork, big fan. But yeah, for the first time in the Splatoon series, we have a brand new gameplay style here, a roguelike. You jump into the tower and you start as a relatively blank slate. You do have a choice in a selection of palettes that you can choose, which basically give you different weapons and sub-weapons that you can start off with the increased chances of specific power-ups popping up between floors. So you go in, and then between every floor, you choose between a few different options. Stuff like the mission type, the difficulty, the membucks that you get as a reward, and the color chips. These are your upgrades. These slight modifiers all fit into different color subsets, essentially, like power, support, weapon range, mobility. You can go for a completely varied lineup if that's what you're comfortable with, or you can try to go all in on something like your weapon range if your goal is to sit back as far as you can with a sniper and just shoot away as far away from enemies as you can. And with the amount of options that you have here, this works with the Splatoon format perfectly, because a lot of the variety that you see in some of the campaigns show up here as well. Maybe a mission will be you gotta sink these big billiard balls while avoiding enemies. Maybe there are these portals that are constantly spawning enemies and you gotta destroy them. Maybe one of the missions will be like this multiplayer mode where you have to escort a turbine tower from point A to point B and avoid all the enemies along the way. Especially for those little segments where like it starts to slow down dramatically and add a lot of stress to the operation. This is a stressful mode, I don't know what to tell you. You got these little fish enemies that'll run away from you and you just gotta chase them down while avoiding every other enemy. There are these zones that you have to protect from enemy forces. Like there are so many different gameplay opportunities here. And sometimes there'll even be a bonus objective for extra color chips if you're feeling a little bit risky. Sometimes you'll even experience a color chip saturation where all of the empty slots in your palette will get filled with random chips of the same color type, giving you just a taste of what something like fully powered up mobility feels like. And sometimes there'll also be danger effects, negative modifiers that are really going to mess with you, like turning the entire area dark. That sucks. You don't know what that negative modifier is going to be until you dive into the floor, adding even more stress to the equation. But it's a risk reward system because realistically you should take a negative modifier now, because if you don't, it's going to be more likely to show up in the future where you don't have a choice, that you will have to take a negative run. And the enemies are really interesting here too, because they're finally really changing up who you're fighting against. These are gelatins, mechanical looking sea creatures in this like weird black gelatin goop. You got small little fishes that'll just slowly crawl towards you. You got flying ones, you got these giant tower ones with multiple hit points, and the way that they all move and operate in an attempt to just come right to you by any means necessary, it's actually all very reminiscent of Salmon Run. Most of these enemies just feel like different weird gelatinous forms of the salmonids. In fact, a lot of the early impressions on this mode just kind of compared it to Salmon Run, and after playing it myself for a good while, yeah, those comparisons are very appropriate. Basically, you're turning Salmon Run into roguelike mode, and that is such a beautiful combination, because Salmon Run is still like the best thing this franchise has ever done. But because this is a roguelike, one of the things that you'll have to accept is you're gonna die. That's kind of inevitable. Like my second run into the tower, I got to the final boss and thought I was doing good, like, oh wow, this mode is a cakewalk, it's so easy. And then on my third run, I got really anxious and impatient, and I died like within 10 minutes. So there you go. There's a perfect example. But something I love with modern roguelikes is, of course, in a roguelike, when you die, you go back to the beginning and you lose all of your stuff. That happens here as well. But you also unlock this currency called pearls. And before you dive into the next run, you're able to talk to Marina and unlock some permanent upgrades in the form of hacks. You get things like extra lives, quicker respawn time for your armor after it breaks, different abilities for Pearl's drone to use during combat. That drone can do attacks in combat, but you have to unlock them here first. These hacks can make your run as easy or as difficult as you want them to be. And what I love is that with the inclusion of the danger effects, it almost doesn't matter how overpowered you think you're going to be with this overload amount of hacks that you have on your character, you can still die at a moment's notice because something is just not working out in your favor. The roguelike gameplay model isn't for everybody, but when it hits really strong, and I think Side Order is a ton of fun. And yeah, there are boss battles here too. Every 10 floors, a boss fight will show up, and you don't know which boss is gonna be until you get to it, which sounds really cool on paper, but there's only like a couple of options, so it's not like you're gonna be really overwhelmed with boss opportunities, you know? You got the pinging Parseal? That's a new word for me. A giant ball-like creature, the asynchronous Rondo, a spinning layered tower, and the parallel cannon, a group of gelatinized inkling characters. That's it. I kind of wish there were more, because if you're making the whole point, like, hey, you never know what boss you're gonna get, and you have to do 2 bosses per run, that just means that every run you're not gonna get one of the 3 bosses. Kind of lame there, but whatever, the rest of the run is stressful enough on its own. You're gonna want to save your energy anyway, because sometimes a floor will bring you to a vending machine where you can get some extra chips, and that offsets a lot of the stress entirely, because you can skip an entire floor of combat just to get a new thing. There's a lot of choice in this mode, man. There's a lot of things to think about. But eventually, I believe in you, you will make it to the top of the tower, and once you get there, you will be introduced to the Overlorder, the Magistrate of Order, this cool, creepy, and glitchy octopus creature. I died to this prick on my first run. I hate him. This battle's pretty cool though. You gotta avoid a bunch of enemies that are making a beeline towards you. You gotta break these big tentacles for this creature, and after you do so, his shield will break, and you gotta cover him in a bunch of ink. Just something you rinse and repeat a few times, and it's so simple on paper, but just the pressure of knowing that if you screw up, it's all the way back to the bottom floor, and each run takes you like an hour of time. Even if it's easy, the pressure is on. But after a few phases, you know what? No big deal. Took me 4 runs to get there, but you know what? I eventually did it, and it doesn't matter. He still overpowers you. Of course. Well, that is until you feel the beat overcome your soul and you bring yourself back to life. And once the music takes over, oh, this final sequence is pretty cool. We get to say DJ Oct and Morena do a collab set together. Oh, this is pretty sick. There's not really as much lore to Oct as I want there to be. Like, yeah, there's stuff that you can dive into for sure. You can learn a little bit more about this character, but for the most part, she's just kind of there as like an ominous force that's guiding you through the tower. I want more to her. But hey, look at that. The power of friendship is strong enough to introduce another Booyah Bomb. I know it's not considered a Booyah Bomb. People have corrected me on that, but she says Booyah, and then an explosion happens, all right? I'm calling it a Booyah Bomb. Oh no, but Overlorder can't help himself. The music is overtaking his body too. He can't help himself but dance. This isn't orderly whatsoever. This is a nightmare. And dude, this transformation sequence when Pearl turns back into the drone and it's like this low poly form and then it just comes into, oh man, it's so cool. The production values in all of Splatoon 3 are just excellent. But now one final burst of attacks and Overlorder can barely fight back. You gotta run around and gather these Spectrum cards, which essentially make you an unstoppable god. You start this segment with nothing, but every time you get one of the Spectrum cards, you get max stats in every single field of that category. And dude, you just feel so overly powerful and it's so cool. It doesn't last all that long, like it's very short, but it does show you the potential of what a fully powered up character can be in this mode, and I love that. Once you gather all of the Spectrum cards, this allows the Pearl drone to do a super powered killer whale. You see, I said the right move this time, and the Overlorder is taken out. And hey, look at that, it's the evil behind it all. Smallisk. Pathetic. And with that, the day is saved. Pearl offers Smallisk some concert tickets, the crew ascend the elevator back to the normal world, and that ends Side Order. Although, it is a roguelike, so the game isn't necessarily over just yet. For many, I'm sure this is where they'll put a stop to it and say, hey, I beat this mode, but if you want to be a true completionist, you have to win and beat this tower with all 10 different weapons. Because by doing a run with each different weapon, you unlock more keys that you use to open up locker doors back in the hub world for even more goodies and more pallets, which open up even more opportunities to make your runs even more different. This level of opportunity can take a mode that would otherwise take you like 3 or 4 hours to beat to like 50 plus if you really dive into it. Plus, once you complete your first runs, more hacks are unlocked from Arena, and a brand new character, Cypher, shows up, selling other items like decorations and splash tag banners and stuff like that, if you want to get that stuff as well. You also will unlock the Inkopolis Square as a hub world option alongside Splatoon 1's Inkopolis Plaza from the first wave DLC. So once you go back to the subway, you can choose one of the first 3 Splatoon campaigns overworlds to explore. Once again, there's not really a whole lot to do there that's unique. It's just a little bit of fan service and not much more than that. I am really just surprised that with the introduction of Inkopolis Plaza as paid DLC, they didn't also introduce the Splatoon 1 campaign just like being ported over for the sake of it, because that's still stuck on the Wii U. This would have been perfect time to introduce that, but whatever, it's more places to run around, so cool. But after devoting enough time to Side Order and giving the Return of the Mammalians main campaign another run, I can safely say that Splatoon 3 is an excellent game all around, and these developers deserve a ton of credit for really improving on the Splatoon 2 formula, more so than a lot of people give this game credit for, and I think I'm part of the problem. I kept telling myself that the way that this game was hyped up, and the way that this DLC was hyped up, it all just felt like, why are we doing this? It all just felt like a money grab from start to finish. Splatoon 3 is just going to be more of the same as Splatoon 1 and 2. The DLC, they handled it very weird because it took forever to get Side Order to come out, and I was already kind of upset because some of the Splatfests weren't really hitting the way that I wanted them to, like the whole 3 different team selection thing didn't work out a lot at the start because the Tricolor Turf War were incredibly imbalanced for a while, and I really just think that Splatoon 3 suffered from first impressions not being as great as it could have been. And I'm not saying it's a model that we should accept, that if you give the game that's already released enough time to cook, you can truly get an amazing time, but sadly, that is what we have here. I did not give Splatoon 3 this much love when it first came out because I just didn't really care, and the way they were rolling out content didn't seem interesting to me, so I moved on to other things, like Xenoblade 3 was new at the time. I was all about playing that instead. But now that I've played these 2 modes and I've gone back through the entirety of the single-player campaigns for the entire Splatoon franchise, I can come out of this saying that I have a stronger appreciation for Splatoon as an entire series more than ever before. This isn't just a fun multiplayer mode, but a lot of the decisions around the multiplayer mode are strange. I also have a greater appreciation for all 3 batches of these Squid Idol groups now. These modes do give all of the groups enough time to shine, and their personalities are all pretty strong. It does kind of suck that Off the Hook is really relegated to just the DLC part, but hey, I appreciate them all the same. I really felt inspired to give Splatoon a lot more of my time once the Splatoon 3 Grand Festival took place. I was really happy I got to participate in that as it was happening because it really felt special. That felt like such a big celebration of everything Splatoon all in one moment in time. That felt like the latest peak in the Splatoon universe, and I had a blast taking just a small part in everything that they pulled off for that one specific event. But with that being said, that is the end of the Splatoon single-player retrospective, and I am now ready more than ever for the future of Splatoon, which is looking like, not too soon from now, we finally have the very first ever Splatoon spin-off. Whatever Raiders turns out to be, I am just now so much more excited for Splatoon content. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching this little side project I wanted to do. The main goal was really to come into this with a middling opinion of Splatoon and hopefully have my opinion changed by the end, and I accomplished that. And if you enjoyed it, hey, thanks for watching. With that being said, I'm gonna go back to playing a little bit of Squid Jump in Splatoon 1, baby! If this doesn't show up in Splatoon 4, I gotta tell you, I'm gonna lose it.